Happy holidays! Today's video I thought I would do kind of like a look back on my year, but outside of the things that I had already been doing. So basically, I'm a writer, that's what this channel is like showcasing, but there's also other stuff that I have done in this year, and I just wanted to talk about it, give some like almost like lessons that I've learned. It is the second to last video before Christmas, so sorry. I don't know, I feel like this is a pretty important one because I feel like creativity is such... Okay, so basically I am a writer. I've made a lot of videos about writing. I make a lot of videos about reading because I'm also a reader. I think you have to be a reader to be a writer. I'm not one of those people who doesn't believe that like audiobooks count as reading, because I actually think that obviously that's how reading started, was oratory stories. I think that it's still very important to read if you're a writer, because you have to learn things like sentence structure, how other writers create plots and whatnot in order to better your own work. However, there's other stuff outside of reading and writing that you can do to be creative as a reader slash writer. Now, I started this channel, for example, which it allows me to be creative. I've started to not take it more seriously, but I have figured out with the Happy Holidays stuff, you'll have noticed if you've been watching my other videos that they have like an introduction, they have like an end screen. I was really intimidated by the idea of those before, so I have figured out basically how to do that with this, because I was like, this would be really cute to have like a little present. And as a result, I've made one for my regular videos so that I will have like an intro and an outro that is the same every video. That counts as creative expansion because it's something, this whole channel counts, but especially doing little things like that, which increase the sort of quality, but in a way that is really simple and effective. And I think that that is a lesson that I've learned a lot this year, because I also have a magazine. Now, I technically started the magazine last year. However, I have come to realize over the past few months, I think it was about June, I was like, I'm letting this magazine down by not putting in as much effort, because I had this weird attitude where I felt like, I don't know, it's hard to kind of explain it, but I basically felt like I was the only one with this expectation, this sort of like dream of what it could become, right? And I think when you have that sort of thing for yourself, it can sometimes feel like, well, this isn't happening, so why am I putting this effort in? I decided to stop doing that. So in the case of the magazine, I have decided to put a lot of effort in. I have already done quite a lot of work towards the next issue, which will be coming out on the 1st of January next year. And it is, in my opinion, it's like a good, I don't know what to say, like it's a good issue in the sense that like I have put a lot of effort in besides what people have sent to us to include as like submissions received, right? I have made a word search, I've made like a crossword, and are they the best? No, I've never made those before, but I wanted it to be a bit more like the sort of like the New Yorker, where it had more than just work that other people sent. Like it had a sort of progression of like things for people to do to keep them interested and to make it, you know, have like a theme that was related to perhaps modern sort of current events, or, you know, a way of like saying, hey, this is a book that one of our staff recommends or something. And I really liked the idea of that, and I hadn't been doing it because it was just a lot of effort, and I was like, is anyone even reading this? I don't know. I think you have to sometimes just do it, and I've learned that. I didn't know, but I learned it now. And the same sort of thing with, as I said, the YouTube channel. I've been making, I've made an intro, I've made an outro. The intro is a lot more work than the outro because I had to like, not animate it, but basically like animate it. I added some sound effects. I'm really happy with it. I think it's cute. I think it fits the channel that I've created. And it's a good sign. So I'll start using that obviously after the holidays. So it'll be like I'll be bringing in the new year as well, which is, I think that's kind of cute, right? I also think that the podcast that I have, if you don't know, the podcast that I have is with one of my author friends. Her name is Becky. We have kind of stepped up a little bit in the past few weeks. We were on the same page about it, which was good. But I was like, I think that we should do an outro. I think that we should do like this, that, and that. So we've decided to make sure that we publish episodes at the same time on the same day every week for the duration of like the season, which we didn't have before. We fell off a bit this season. Last season it wasn't so bad, but this, we've been, you know, she was very busy. I've actually had a hospital appointment like 2 days ago, which I don't want to say it went well, but like I did the procedure, even though I was very stressed, and like, so get the results back from that soon, hopefully. But yeah, I've been like doing stuff, she's been doing stuff. She's a published author now, as well as having like other jobs. So it's just one of those things where, you know, we were putting in less effort than we wanted to, and we weren't really thrilled. So we've started putting in a bit more effort. I've managed to edit the episodes in like a day. I didn't used to be able to do that. It used to take me ages because I hate doing it. But I've changed my mind. I like to just get it done with and put it up. We've started to, for every episode, I basically write like a more detailed description. It's not super detailed, but it was literally like a line before. Now it's like a few sentences. And I try and say what's going on in the episode. I add tags to the YouTube videos, which I also do with my own videos, which I wasn't doing. I didn't really understand how stuff worked. I understand it a bit more now. I'm not like perfect with it, but it's effort, right? And I just think like it's important, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because I feel like sometimes when you're a creative but you're not getting like paid to do your creative things, it can sometimes become a habit, which is good, but a habit of being almost like lazy and sort of half effort, you know, like you're not putting in 100% because you're just doing this and it's like it's routine and you're just doing it. And I don't think that's the problem. I think that, you know, you have as much energy as you have, but in the case of myself, and especially with the podcast, you know, we were both on the same page. We recorded an outro, we used that outro, we have decided to eventually try and get like an actual editor. We're currently looking for one, but obviously we can't pay anybody because we don't get paid for the podcast and we have no money. But we want to like properly do this. We want it to be like a thing that, especially when we eventually get more established in our author careers, you know, it would be nice to have something like that to talk about the things that happen, like our experiences of, you know, doing book tours where we meet lots of fans who travel to meet us and stuff. Like, it'll be fun to have that. But it'll also be really nice, I think, from a perspective of like newer writers out there, to be able to see our experiences and how they've changed over time. And so it doesn't make sense to me that we wouldn't put the effort in now. And we kind of, you know, we were putting in effort. It wasn't like, it was like we didn't care about it. I think we're both very proud of the podcast. We've had some discussions on there that I'm really happy with. And I really like that we've interviewed other authors, all of them so far self-published, but we have one who actually, she's going to be coming on, we don't know when yet, but she's self-publishing a book, but she's also going on submission with a different book. So we're kind of, you know, and it's exciting because it's like, this is something that I wanted to do for a really long time. I wanted to do a YouTube channel since I was like 10 years old. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm 23. I therefore grew up, as you can imagine, in like the peak YouTube era. Like I started watching YouTube with like Happy Wheels era PewDiePie. That there are going to be people who don't understand what that means, but the people who do are going to be like, oh, okay. It was a long time ago, right? It was a really, really long time ago. I think that when you say that you're gonna do a YouTube channel and you're that age, you don't really know what that means. You don't understand the editing process. You don't really understand how you're gonna film. You just think like, oh, I'll make a YouTube channel and then I'm gonna be one of those people who gets like millions of followers. No. And I didn't go into this thinking that, but I did really want to have a place where I could talk because I film on TikTok like every day. I decided to do that earlier this year. I don't know when it was. I think it was like May or something. Maybe March. It was an M month, I'm assuming. And I just decided that like I was gonna start posting every day, because if you post every day, the consistency gets you more views. You are supposed to post like 5 times a day. I literally cannot do that. I'm sorry. I can't do that. And I think that, you know, eventually I might, if I like, because I don't really do much right now, but if I was like to leave the house, I might make a video where I do like a vlog outside of the house, where I'm like writing in a cafe, like especially on campus. There are a few places on campus at my university that I really like, and I would like to be there next year. This is a message from my body. Please, please, please cooperate, because I would love to be back at university. I feel like this is another thing, right? I think being unwell has made me realise that like I really was slacking. Does anyone watch the Chuckle Brothers? I grew up watching them. I went to their live shows and stuff. No slacking. That's how I need to like treat myself right now, because I have been slacking so much. And I didn't realise it because I was like, oh, well, I'm putting effort into my essays. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. No, I wasn't. I'm going to say something now. And look, it's fine, okay? I'm literally like not doing badly in my degree at all, considering that I wasn't there in my second year. I am doing well. I could get a first if I get a grip when I go back. Like that's the level that we're aiming for, okay? It's possible. It is like literally like, I think like 2 good essays and I'll get there. But I wasn't putting in a lot of effort. I was putting in effort in the sense that like I would do the stuff, you know? But I didn't read all the texts that I studied and then I wrote essays on, okay? I'm just gonna say that now. I didn't. I wrote a bit about, I think, the Scarlet Letter. And I didn't read the Scarlet Letter. And to be fair, I didn't like it. So I read what I needed and then I moved on. But I feel like now that I've had this experience of not physically being able to do stuff, my appreciation for that stuff has gone up. Not being able to use my brain was really hard because I could use it, but my body wasn't up for me doing the stuff that I would have to do to use it. So it got to a point where I was completing 40 something Sudokus in a day, and I started seeing them behind my eyes. It was like a full-on hyperfixation. It was really bad. We're talking to somebody, okay, I can't see stuff in my eye, like my mind's eye, okay? Unless I'm dreaming, like I'm asleep, I can't do it. The only time that I've ever had that was when I took my medication, which it's like a tranquilizer, right? It knocks me the hell out, okay? When I take it within an hour, if I have to like go to the bathroom before I go to sleep, which I always do because it's like a routine, I have to go before I go to sleep. Even if I don't need to, I have to go. I'm like listing on my way to the bathroom. I'm like leaning, and that's because so my brain gets like really heavy, and essentially that is like the only time that I have ever, while I was awake, seen stuff behind my eyes, okay? Except for the Sudokus. I started seeing random Sudokus behind my eyes. So I had to stop. But I've since, like, I wrote my first book because I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna take this year that I'm taking out of my education. It's become 2 years. And I'm gonna turn it into something that I can be proud of, right? I'm gonna write a book because I've never done it and I've always wanted to, and I've got so many ideas, and I just came up with this idea for a Formula One book and I want to do it. So I did. And I've since written 2 more books in full. I've written like 2 halves of 2 different books. And I have an idea that I'm gonna see through to the end with my next one. And I've got a bunch of books to research so that I can finish one of the others. And then when I've edited the other one, and as well, like depending on how querying goes, I've got some edits to make for Formation Lab because a friend of mine gave me some really good edit stuff. Nothing too complex, but stuff that I can just go in and, you know. And then I'll finish writing the sequel to that book because it was really easy and I was really enjoying it. But I've definitely overwritten 50,000 words in, and I'm like a third of the way through the story. It's fine. It's okay. But I have a plan, and I've been really motivated with my writing, and I haven't ever been like that before. And I'm really proud of myself for doing that. I'm really proud of the way that I've dealing with my health and being very proactive. I was the one who was from the beginning like, hey, this isn't a mental thing, this is a physical thing. And I know because like this bit is mental, but it's as bad as it is because of the physical. Like I just knew, and I'm finally being, you know, procedured. You know what I mean. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the fact that I started a podcast. I started it with a writer friend who I made, who is like, she's great, love her. And I just think like I've wanted a podcast for years. I've wanted a YouTube channel for years. I've wanted to write a book for years. And I wanted to start a magazine since I was a kid. Like I've always loved the idea of working for a magazine. I actually did intern at one for like 2 weeks and it was great. I would rather work in a magazine than like a newspaper or something. You know, I would rather have like a column or something in a magazine than in a newspaper. I would rather edit for a magazine. It was a really fun experience doing that, and so I finally started one. And I just think there's this like thing that sometimes stops you, and it's yourself. It's your own like, well, what if I'm not good enough? What if, you know, I don't have the time? And if you don't have the time, you can just stop. Like there's no shame in going, hey, I need to step back. Actually, this is not working out for me. I can't do it. I have skipped some videos on my YouTube channel. I've changed how often I do it. I have been a little bit I think like an hour or so late sometimes because I just have, you know, done it last minute. That's fine. Like it's literally, it doesn't matter. And I get what I'm getting at. What I'm trying to sort of say is that sometimes you put stuff off or you don't put the effort in that you imagined yourself putting in, or not even like you imagine yourself putting in that effort, but you imagine like an end result and then you don't put in the effort necessary to get that end result. Like, for example, you don't film an outro for your podcast, you don't make an intro and an outro for your YouTube channel, you don't actually put the work into your magazine because you feel like this could be work delegated to other people, or because you feel like you're taking it too seriously. And something that I've started to say to myself recently, and I made a TikTok about this, because, okay, anecdote. In July, like early July this year, I made a TikTok of that trend where you're like, oh, can I hit this many followers or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I was at, I think, like 230 subscribers, or like maybe 220. And I was like, oh, I don't think I'm going to hit 250 by the end of the year, which was legitimately like my goal that I was aiming for, was 250 on TikTok by the end of the year. I made that video in July. Now in December, I think I'm like 3 followers away from 500, which is twice as many followers as my goal for the entire year, halfway through the year was. I started posting consistently. I started to show my face more and speak more and do more like content that was kind of like reflective of how I enjoy filming stuff on TikTok. I've started doing that more here. I think maybe that's kind of obvious, especially with the holidays stuff, where, I mean, like, look at I did this for this video, okay? I literally, all of the, like, I'm wearing shoes. So I have started to put more effort in, because yeah, I could have just not done this today. I could have just put on a normal outfit. But it's the holidays and I had a very specific plan that I wanted to dress up a little bit and, you know, wear something sparkly and have it be like themed around Christmas, because I love Christmas jumpers that have a pun of my name in them. Like, have a holly jolly Christmas is, I sing like songs like that all the time, and I just think about like, it's me. And I just think that like when you have something like that, it can feel really easy to say, well, that would be dumb and people wouldn't like it and people wouldn't care, and what if people thought it was stupid and whatever. And you know what, if you think it's stupid, you think it's stupid. I think it's a little bit stupid, but I think that's why I like it, because it's like stupid in a way that I'm stupid, right? Like, I like dumb things sometimes. I like the idea of dressing up for a video just because that idea came into my head and I was like, that's a fun idea. I like the idea of having like a little intro that's different in the holidays because my name's Holly and it's like, hi. I think that that sort of stuff, it's the stuff that you can put yourself off doing, and it's the stuff that makes you feel fulfilled. I have started to care more about the magazine, and I don't feel quite so bad about the stuff that I felt bad about before when it comes to that. I don't feel so bad anymore about the podcast because I feel like I'm putting in the effort that it deserves, and so I don't have to be ashamed that I'm not putting in that effort. I don't feel so much like, you know, I'm the best person in the world, and that's fine. But I'm doing my best. And I think sometimes, you know, you have this fear in your head that if you get seen trying, it's embarrassing if you fail. And failure is not even like a definable thing. You know, I've been doing this now for about a year, this YouTube thing, and I've got like almost 50 subscribers. To me, that's like great. It's kind of crazy actually. But if people enjoy my videos, even if they only enjoy the writer one or the reader ones, I think that's fine. because I make content that like I would never make a video just for the sake of making a video. Like I wouldn't come up with an idea just to make it like marketable to other people. I make content that I'm happy with and that I want to make. I, you know, have a video, actually have the book right here. It won't be a holidays video because I've already got the next video planned out. But I think the next video that comes after after Christmas, like the first video, is going to be about Magnolia Parks, and specifically because you can see I own the book. I read the second one. I own all of them technically. They are in the hallway because I'm getting rid of them. Stuff has happened with this author that I didn't know about until after I'd read the second one, and there's a lot, and I just thought that it would be interesting to talk about that book as somebody who read it and who, like, my perspective on it changed when I found out this stuff about the author, because it's hard to explain. It's not that I was like, oh, the author's a bad person, so the book's automatically terrible. It's not like I switched up my opinion on the book itself so much as the context changed, and therefore the things that I felt about it went from being good things to being bad things. Does that make sense? And I think that's an interesting perspective to come from this discussion, because I've seen a lot of people criticize her very rightly, but not all of them have read the book. I've read the book and I want to talk about it because I have a lot of thoughts about this, and I actually have had these thoughts since I first found out, and there's more stuff coming out pretty much every day about this author, so I'm just like, okay, I need to talk about this because this is kind of crazy. I also am currently reading Gone with the Wind. It is a super long book, tiny text. Like, I have to wear my glasses to read this book. And I will probably not be finishing any other books before the end of the year, so unfortunately I probably won't be doing any videos talking about the books that I want to read before the end of the year, but I might do a video in January of like, these are some of the books that I'd like to read in this sort of first quarter or something of the month of the year, because that's what interests me. It's what I like. It's the stuff that makes me feel, you know, at ease when I talk about it. I don't know if that comes across. I will say I am, regardless of anything else, autistic. I do mask. I can't even, it's not even conscious at this point. Like, I can't help but mask. And I feel like sometimes that's not what I want it to be. I wish I didn't, but I have this thing where I refuse to force myself to unmask, because that is just so much effort to be myself that I am like, I resist it. I resist the idea of doing that. But there are other things. Okay, I'm going on a little, you know, the point of what I'm trying to say is that I am very authentic to myself in these videos. I try to be anyway. I would say that, you know, having a conversation with me would be like this. This is how I talk to this camera, kind of the way that I talk to my mum. My mum and I talk a lot. I was talking to her about the way that people just have lost reading comprehension, and about the way that certain books have no depth anymore, and they have no like you know, the stuff that makes books interesting, even if they're not like an award-winning sort of gold standard book, you know, like a book like, for example, mine. I'm never gonna say that my book is like the best thing that's ever been written, okay? But it still has like layers to it, and there's stuff that you can think about and talk about and discuss and take from it. And I think that there are books being produced that don't have any of that, and you have to really like make stuff up. And look, the criticism comes from the book itself rather than like what is in the text. Like, it comes about because you're criticizing the fact that there isn't depth, rather than because the depth is there and you're criticizing the way that it portrays it or something. I think that there's a huge difference in the way that some books are to others, and the way that in general people are just interacting with media and completely misunderstanding stuff, and like taking something completely different away from a story to the point where it's like, how did you get to that? That is not even close to what it was saying. But I don't know, I think that the way that I talk here and the way that I talk on the podcast, it's not unfiltered. Like, I'm not gonna say stupid stuff. But I do talk very openly about a lot of stuff, and I talk very much like myself. And I think that because of that, it felt sometimes like it was stupid for me to put more effort into the editing of my videos and to do like, you know, and sometimes I still feel kind of stupid when I do stuff. But I think that's okay, you know? Like, it's okay to do stuff and feel a bit dumb. It's okay to do that as long as you do it anyway. Because as long as you're not hurting anybody and being like actually offensive, the ways that you try and improve your content, the way that you try and improve your magazine, your podcast, your videos, it's worth doing because it pushes your boundaries in the same way that like writing a new genre or reading a new genre pushes you. And that's why the video that I'm doing, it's called like creative expansion, right? I think that me being unable to do anything made me feel about the things that I already loved a way that I had never felt. It made me feel really passionate about the idea of putting work into my essays again and like reading the text and like editing them. I never used to edit my essays. That was like what I was trying to get at before, and I don't think I said it, I'm sorry. But like, I never used to rewrite essays. I would just do like a draft and then I do a bit of minor edits and that would be it. I don't plan on doing that when I go back to uni. I'm going to be writing them properly. I'm going to be treating them like a draft of a book. Because I have learned how to respect my work more than I used to. And that's important. I've learned that, you know, you can make a YouTube channel and it not be like really depressing just because you don't immediately become one of those million subscriber channels who blows up. Same with TikTok. You know, if I had treated it like, oh, nobody's watching anyway, I wouldn't have the nearly 500 people following me there that I do now. I've started to take my things more seriously, and as a result, they have begun to grow. I have gained more followers on YouTube, I've gained more followers on TikTok, and I've gained more followers on the podcast. And that's since, like, noticeably there have been, like, not huge increases, but increases that are very obviously because of the effort that I've been putting in and that being given back. And while that stuff isn't, like, the most important in the world, obviously on TikTok specifically, it would be great because it really helps with agents and stuff if you can be like, I have this many followers. So I am aiming on TikTok for that. But in my opinion, everyone that follows me, it's like, that's crazy. Because chances are they're following me because I have something to say. And yeah, the podcast, obviously there's two of us co-hosts. It's a little bit different. But I think when you've started to take yourself seriously, it can be really weird because you have this part of your brain, if you're like me and you have like insecurities and stuff, and I'm working on them, obviously. You know, a few years ago, I would have felt too ashamed to post my face on the internet, to post my voice. I do that now. It's fine. I literally don't care. I do get a little bit like, oh, it looks so bad. But it's fine. You know, if I look terrible, it's because I just look terrible. I can't avoid that. I can't just like wait for a different day. And I think that it's very easy to look at that sort of situation and to say, well, I don't want to put in this effort because, you know, people are going to think that I think that I'm like the best person ever to be making a video if I start putting effort into my videos. They're going to be like, oh, you're making videos as if you have 1 million subscribers. That sort of attitude can be really difficult to overcome, I think, when you're a newer creative. And I say newer in the sense of like publishing your work. I've stopped feeling that way. And if I still feel it on the worst days, I've started to be like, who cares? Don't feel that way. Do it anyway, just whatever. Because it held me back for a while. And this year I've learned that that's stupid. I've learned it's stupid. I've learned that it's a really dumb thing to have like all of these ideas and to not do any of them and to not make them the way that you wanted them to be just because you're afraid that people are going to think that you're pushing above your weight. I think that's dumb. And it's that kind of attitude that stops people from getting published. There's the writer thing where it's like this many percentage of people end up finishing the book compared to like this many people who, I think it's like something like 98 or something percent of people have an idea for a book, or they want to write a book, right? Even if they don't have an idea. I think it's something like 6% of people start writing the book, or maybe a little bit higher number, and then less people still finish the book, and then less people get it published. They like get an agent or whatever. Because a lot of people say that they want to do stuff and then they don't take it seriously. And yes, a lot of those people are saying that they want to write a book, because I saw a discussion on a comment the other day about how people think that writing is easier than other art forms because everyone can like do it. Everyone can pick up a pen or type on their phone or something. Like, we live in an age where it's really accessible, right? And so people think that it's not that difficult. And that's why they say that they want to write a book, even if they have no writing ability and they have no urge to actually try and write it. I don't think that there's like a barrier into writing in the sense that you can't get better at it. But I do think that there are people who just never learn, whether that's because they don't take feedback or their intuition just sways the other way. I don't think that that means that they're bad writers, but I think that there are obviously some writers whose best is like John Steinbeck sort of level, versus there are people whose best is that maybe they'll write like a light-hearted rom-com that does mildly well. I think that, you know, there's different levels of authors in each genre. There's different levels of author across the spectrum. I don't know where I fit, but I'm not gonna assume that I don't deserve to be published. I'm not gonna assume that my work's bad. I feel that way a lot. But like, I just got feedback from that friend, like I said, and she said some really great things, which made me feel a lot better. And I've decided to take that attitude forward with everything, basically, and to say that, you know, it's a little bit embarrassing to be seen being bad at something when you first start out. You know, my editing's not always going to be perfect on a video. It's going to be the case that sometimes on a podcast I'm a little tired, or I'm having a very autism heavy day and I'm just like, I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk, I don't want to talk. I need to push through it. Not to an unhealthy way, obviously. I'm not going to do it in a way that's like damaging to me. But I'm going to do it even when my mental state is like telling me that I'm not good enough. And I think everyone should do that. I think that if you're afraid of people thinking that you're not good and that you're acting like you're better, that's kind of on them. Because I think it's really embarrassing when there are people who, they think that like it's some kind of own that somebody is like putting effort into their work that they're doing. You know, like you see people on TikTok who they have like a ring light and a tripod. I bought a tripod recently. I would buy a ring light, but to be honest, the idea of having a bright light in my face kind of, I don't think I would like that. I will eventually have sunlight in my videos. Sorry, it's winter right now. Okay, I don't know what to tell you. It's not like, you know, it's dark at like 4 o'clock. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just can't, okay? I think that putting that effort in is a sign that you are one of the people who is going to finish the book, right? Because that's the way that it is. People, they think that they want to do something, but then they don't put the effort in. Maybe they never do it. I didn't do it until this year. I didn't make a YouTube channel despite the fact that I've wanted to for like 10 plus years. I didn't make an intro and an outro thing until like 2 days ago or whatever. And I think that it's fine that I didn't do that, because it's not something that I'm making money off of. It's not something that's like growing super fast. It's not like I'm putting out mediocre content for like the masses. But I think that there's still a pride to be had. And that's like the whole video, is that there's pride. And I think that I just wanted to talk about it, because I think that it's very easy to sound like you're very into yourself and that you think you're like the best thing since sliced bread when you talk about with pride the things that you've done creatively. I'm a writer, first and foremost, and branching out and doing the things that I've been doing, and to start putting more effort in the way that I have been over the last like month or two, I think is really something that I should be proud of, and I am proud of it. I'm proud of the fact that I've put the effort in to do these things that I wanted to do ages ago, but I just didn't know how, or I didn't feel like, it felt like I was like being like somebody else if I was doing them. I wanted to do them. They were in the vision that I had when I created this channel, when I created the magazine, when I created the podcast. And I'm kind of tired of myself putting myself down before other people do, because it's one thing if other people think I'm stupid, or like if I'm like trying too hard or whatever. People are entitled to their opinions. But why is my opinion the one that I am putting above everyone else's? Like, why am I making the assumption that I don't deserve to put this effort in or whatever, or that I don't deserve the success? And as I said, it's proven so far to be worth it, because I've made movement forward, right? Especially with the podcast, we had sort of stagnated. We've gained, I think, like 4 followers in the past like 2-3 episodes or so, which isn't a lot, I will accept. But I think especially with stuff like this, the more people that you get listening to begin with, the faster that the growth happens, right? Because you get pushed to more people. And we had like 7 different countries worth of people listening. We got like a Spotify Wrapped, but for podcasters. It was really cute. Like, it was so cute. I'm sorry, it was adorable. It was great. And it was like, this is like the episode that people like the most. This is like how people listened. And people listened a lot more than I thought that they did. And like, there were people who were like actual fans of the podcast. And like, I knew that we had a few people like that. I have a friend who's like, sometimes I put it on to go to sleep. I like have felt so much more confident though since I've been doing stuff like this, since I've been putting in the effort, and I think the proof is in the pudding, right? You've got to do stuff sometimes. You've got to get past that initial like desire as a human being. And look, I'll say this, like I've said this before, I'll say it again. I am prouder of the fact that I am one of those people who doubts herself rather than is like so egotistical that I just embarrass myself. I would rather like embarrass myself knowingly than be like everyone laughing at me and I don't know why, right? I've seen that happen with so many different people, and I can't. I couldn't do that. So if I think that my writing's not the best thing in the world and other people, they don't like it at all, that's fine. Because you know what? I have average expectations. I think it's good, actually. I don't think it's bad. I think it's really difficult to talk about, again, without sounding like you have like these amazing thoughts of yourself. I have gotten good feedback on my work consistently for my entire life. And especially right now, where I've been putting in the work. I know how to make a story. I know how to make characters that are realistic. I know how to do dialogue that's realistic. I am not ashamed to be proud of myself anymore. And while I am still not like convinced that I'm the best writer that's ever existed and that, you know, I like deserve stuff, I also do think that I deserve stuff. And I'm at the very least, if I'm going to be a little bit embarrassed by the fact that I'm trying, I'm going to make myself try and push through that embarrassment in order to do so. Like, I get that I'm kind of repeating myself a lot, and I think that there's a lot that can be said about this topic, and I'm only covering specifics to me. But I wanted to talk about it because I know that there are people who are going to be watching this who maybe you're a little bit afraid to try and do something that's a little bit different, that there are people who are going to be afraid to go out there and do stuff and it be like the worst thing ever. It's fine. People haven't been very mean to me. I think that a lot of what we put on ourselves as self-conscious writers and creatives, it is just from ourselves. It's not stuff that we're actually going to experience from other people. It is stuff that we think, you know, we catastrophize, and then it doesn't happen that way. And then we feel a bit stupid for thinking that way, but we continue thinking that way. I'm choosing to not let myself think that way until after I've posted the video, until after I've, you know, published the magazine and had people read my work. And I think that the more that I do that, the less insecure I become. And as somebody who used to be a lot more insecure, especially about like my appearance and my work that I created from scratch, you know, like with no stuff to bounce off of, it's been incredible to see that change. And I just would fully recommend that you do the same, that you push yourself creatively and expand creatively, because if you want to do it, obviously don't just do it for the sake of it, but if you want to do it, I think it's so natural to be afraid of like trying this new medium and it not working. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Who cares? You know, you can just stop. And I said that to my mum. I found out, I mean, I kind of knew, but I don't know why, until she like confirmed it for a fact. I had no idea that, like, because basically the way that the EU works, Britain's not in it because we left. And I want to live in France, okay? I really want to live in France. If you're in the EU, if you're like an EU citizen, you can move anywhere in the EU. Just, you don't have to like get a visa, you go because you're a citizen of the EU. You can move there and there's no limit. You can just stay there forever and that's fine. My brother did that and then Brexit happened and it became a little weird. So he moved to a different place outside of the EU, very far away from me. But I found out for certain that my mum knows for a fact that her biological father is from Ireland, like Ireland, which is in the EU. I can therefore, because my grandfather is an Irish citizen and was born there, I can become an EU citizen through gaining Irish citizenship. Now, that's nice for a few reasons. I would like dual citizenship if possible, because I would still like to be able to return home freely. But I hate that, like, it's just a mess. It's a mess. And so I would be able to move to France with that citizenship easily. And I said to my mum, and I was like, this is so much better, because rather than having to like do a trial run before I go through the harrowing process of trying to get a French visa, which is like notably quite difficult, especially for British people, who everyone hates us. We're the America of Europe. It's like a thing. I won't have to do that. I won't have to, because if I move there and I hate it, it's no big deal. I can just come back because I didn't have to go through the process of getting a visa. And I've been saving up for years, by the way. I've been saving up since I was like 13. I have a fair amount of money in savings that I'm very strict about. I don't spend my savings beyond like this amount of money if I know that I will make it back up eventually. I tend to not spend like any money and then I get like a sort of spending spree. At the moment it's been clothes. I needed new clothes. I didn't have a plain white shirt with like a collar and sleeves, so I bought one. I think I might do like a little try on thing on TikTok eventually, because I need to try them on, and I really like them. But I needed more shirts because I love shirts. I love like formal shirts with sleeves and collars, and I just have run out of them. And I needed more clothes that were suitable for the outside world. So I bought some, and it cost money, but they're good quality items with like full cotton, you know? So I paid money that should hopefully be worth it and that they should last a really long time. But still, I will not spend money for a few months, realistically, except for like the essentials and stuff. Because it's like just a thing that I do, and it's the way that I've been because I've been saving up money to move abroad. I wanted like at least 15 grand to move abroad so that I could have a few months of, if I didn't have a job to sustain me, I could be fine and I would have enough money to survive and pay rent for a few months. So I've like not nearly achieved that, but I have like gotten pretty close over the years. And I just think that basically the reason why I made this video, besides like just talking about it and being like, hey, you should also, if you wanted to do this thing, just go for it. I am one of those people who has like a plan. I have a very strong plan for what I want to do with my life. And I've been working towards it with a few changes over the past 10 or so years of my life. The career I want has changed a little bit because I've learned more about the industry and I don't love the idea of working in it as it is. But I really like the rest of my plan. I like the idea of moving abroad. I like the idea of living in a cute little place with my cats. I think it's sweet. I have this one specific place in Paris that I absolutely love. It's currently rented out, but if it becomes free and I'm able to move to Paris at the time, I am getting that place. I swear to God, this is like, I think about this all the time. I have it saved, the link to it, to its listing, just so that I can look at it because it's so gorgeous. I love it. I looked at like all of the apartments that were available. That one is the cutest. I love it. And it's actually like a good size. But yeah, basically I have a plan and I've been following it, and I wasn't following it in a way that was satisfactory to me, and I've now done that, and I'm starting to really get my stuff together and to be like, you know what, it's all well and good for you to say that you want to have a YouTube channel with this and this, but if you're not doing that and that, you're not getting the that and that. So shut up and just do it. And that's why things are going to change a little bit. Not a lot, okay? The production value is still going to be fairly simple. It's going to be this. But there's going to be an intro, there's going to be an outro. I am going to start putting a bit more work into the podcast. We're going to start trying to get some like sound effects and stuff, maybe like an introduction theme that we compose ourselves. I'm going to start putting more effort into my magazine, which I'll link, by the way, if you want to go check it out. But yeah, I think that that's basically everything that I had to say, and then some, and I'm sorry that it's really windy. I hope this was an interesting conversation. I hope that maybe it struck a chord with you and that you agree. I just think that there's a lot to be said about being a creative with a lot of insecurity and a lot of like pressure and stuff from yourself to not try your best because like it's embarrassing, and it's not. And I've learned that. I finally, like, it took me like a year and a bit of making content, but I finally got there and I've been putting in more effort, and it's already been proven in my mind to be worth it. So I'm gonna do that, and I'm also just gonna have, because it's Christmas, I'm gonna have a quality street. I'm gonna leave this video here. This is why I don't have a mini mic, because I would just be like all the time, because it's so cute. Look. But yeah, I'm trying. I think that that's great. I think you should try too, and I'm sorry that this was a complete mess, but yeah, have a good week. I'll see you soon, and bye.